April 21st, 1789. Day 6 of George Washington's journey to New York City gets underway. As he leaves Philadelphia, Washington is reminded of the man he personally appointed to run the city. A bold and brave American general he once admired and respected, and now despises more than any other man. Benedict Arnold, one of the most troubled and treacherous characters of the Revolution. July 1778, City Tavern. Benedict Arnold has recently arrived in Philadelphia to assume his new post as military governor. He will attempt to restore order to the city after 9 months of British occupation. Quite well-heeled now, Arnold seems to have forgotten his own troubled background. Though born into a prominent Connecticut family, Arnold's alcoholic father squandered their fortune, forcing his son to take a lowly apprenticeship as an apothecary. The determined young boy grew to become a successful yet angry man with ambitions of becoming a gentleman, and once war broke out, a hero. In 1775, it was Arnold who helped lead a daring raid on a remote British outpost, Fort Ticonderoga. But Arnold's co-commander on that mission, the wily frontiersman Ethan Allen, took complete credit for the capture of the fort. 2 years later at Saratoga, Arnold's battlefield heroics were again usurped by a fellow officer, Horatio Gates. Though it was Arnold who led the fight and suffered a near-fatal wound, he received no credit for the victory.
The people and the press hailed Gates as the new American hero. In fact, the hero of the battle was Benedict Arnold.
Crippled by the injury from Saratoga, Arnold has relinquished a battlefield command for this new post in Philadelphia. Determined to make the best of it, he now throws himself into the job, but his actions begin to raise questions.
Arnold's first act was to close all the stores. He said to take an inventory of what there was available, but immediately the accusations began to fly that he was cornering the market on goods that he was going to sell himself. I don't think Benedict Arnold was doing anything that many of the other generals on both sides did as a matter of custom. He was just doing what was common practice at the time, but he got nailed for it.
Arnold's questionable business dealings come under fire in the press, with charges of corruption and abuse of power. Charges compounded by his choice in women. Arnold courts and marries 18-year-old Peggy Shippen, a beautiful young lady from a wealthy family, and a suspected loyalist.
She was a gorgeous young woman. She was extremely well educated by her father, could run a business which appealed to a Yankee merchant like Arnold. Today they would be considered a dynamite couple.
But they are a couple under intense scrutiny. In an overheated political climate, the cries against Arnold's actions escalate for nearly a year. They are charges that will have to be answered. March 5th, 1779, Benedict Arnold stands in the Continental Congress, called by a special investigative committee to answer the accusations levied against him. In his mind, he is yet again underappreciated, his honor unfairly tarnished.
His statement is really a recitation of all that he did and all that he had lost. He'd been crippled for life. He'd been passed over for promotion several times, and he thought he had lost his honor with its lingering cloud over him.
Arnold's impassioned defense vindicates him in front of Congress. But the charges just won't go away. Leading the attack against Arnold is Joseph Reed, formerly one of Washington's trusted officers, now the acting governor for the state of Pennsylvania. Reed threatens to withdraw Pennsylvania's support for the war if Washington refuses to take action against Arnold. And George Washington is forced to weigh in. The commander-in-chief wants to give the talented Arnold a well-deserved field command, but he needs Pennsylvania's support and agrees to issue a written rebuke to Arnold. Once the affair blows over, he can give Arnold the intended promotion. When Arnold receives the ruling from his commander-in-chief, the words are stinging. Reprehensible, imprudent, improper. For Arnold, it is the final slight. Now, in his mind, betrayed, he devises a betrayal of his own. He taps an old friend of Peggy's from the occupation of Philadelphia, British Major John Andre, and offers to surrender a mighty fort to the British in exchange for 20,000 British pounds and a general's rank in their army. It is a fort that even bears the general's name, Fort Arnold, also known as West Point. West Point is a prize the British have coveted since the beginning of the war, but have never been able to take with a military offensive. Control West Point, and you control the vital Hudson River, severing communication between New England and the rest of the colonies.
At West Point, the river remains tidal, which is to say at some times of the day it flows south and at other times of the day it flows north. This made West Point an ideal place to mount cannons on both sides of the river as ships had to navigate this very tricky curve.
The British readily agree to Benedict Arnold's terms, and Arnold sets his plot in motion. Arnold takes a meeting with his commander-in-chief and uses Washington's desire to give him a field command to his advantage, persuading Washington to instead give him control of West Point.
George Washington was puzzled that Benedict Arnold would want the command of West Point. Washington wanted to put him back into the line of battle, but Arnold insisted on West Point because that was the deal with the British.
Now in charge of West Point, Arnold prepares detailed information on the fort and sets a meeting with the enemy. September 21st. Benedict Arnold and his British contact, Major John Andre, come face to face along the banks of the Hudson River. They go over the plans of the fort and troop movements. Arnold's treason is now complete.
I think the biggest misconception about Arnold's treason is he did it for the money. I don't think he did. I don't think it was as simple as that. He did it for his pride. The money was secondary.
Arnold will now wait for the moment when he and Peggy can slip quietly behind the British lines. But news is about to arrive that will change everything. Andre has been captured, and on him are discovered the plans to West Point. Arnold knows it is only a matter of moments before the plot is uncovered, so he flees. Just a few miles away, a familiar figure is making his way towards a breakfast meeting with a trusted general. When Washington arrives, it is clear something is amiss. Arnold is nowhere to be found, and Washington gets the news. John Andre has been captured with the plans to West Point. It all adds up to one undeniable conclusion. One of the great heroes of the Revolution has sold out to the British. In British-held New York City, there is a new officer in their ranks, Brigadier General Benedict Arnold. His loving wife, Peggy, forced in shame from Philadelphia, now by his side. Britain's King George III, never able to crush the American rebels, went mad and was deemed mentally unfit to rule for the final decade of his reign. Benedict Arnold, the Connecticut-born Yankee and America's greatest traitor, landed in London after the war, where he failed as a businessman. He died a broken man at the age of 60, suffering one final slight. Arnold was buried without military honors in a grave mistakenly marked with another man's name.